everyone, and welcome back to the Rave Social Podcast. Today we have a special guest, Kessli Hall. She is a business strategist and brand architect who blends high-level strategy with astrology and human design to create businesses that are as profitable as they are soul-aligned. She's known for her ability to see the blueprint of a founder's genius and translate it into clear offers, sustainable systems, and powerful positioning. Through her work, Kessli has guided visionaries from building their first foundations to scaling into multi-seven figures. Her work goes beyond strategy. It's about identity, leadership, and building a business that actually reflects who you are at your core. I'm so excited to have Kessli on today. We're going to be talking about astrology for your 2026 business strategy. So you can already start thinking about next year. And we're just really excited to have you on. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation. I feel like this is coming up in a lot of my communities right now overall, because I think it's very obvious the fundamental shifts that are happening for us right now, like the undercurrent that we can all feel. There's a lot of massive cosmic disruptions that are very in support of this. And I always say that it's not like technically the planet's causing it, but I mean, they reflect exactly what is happening. So there is, a lot of evidence there. But yeah, there are some huge disruptive shifts that are happening in just fundamentally how we operate our business, especially in terms of marketing, especially in terms of offers. Like, we're really being asked to be flexible and to be able to pivot and doing it, of course, in an aligned way. But yeah, all of the big guys in astrology, which are Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, and then Jupiter and Saturn, have all switched signs this year. And they typically take years and years. Like Pluto takes 20 years to switch a sign. Neptune's like 14-ish years. Jupiter and Saturn switch more often, but it's like 1 to 2 or 3 years. But nonetheless, like all of them shifted in signs this year. And so it's really, really setting up the kind of playing field for 2026.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's so... I mean, I feel like if people are listening to this podcast, they're a little bit wooey. Mm-hmm. But it's just interesting because, like, whether or not you believe in it or agree with it or, subscribe to whatever, my personal opinion is that it doesn't matter because it's going to happen anyways. Mm-hmm. Like, the shifts are happening, period, because it is real. So you don't even have to, believe in it to actually feel the impact of it. And I do definitely feel like I've felt it in my business over the last year. But what would you say are what would you say the number one shift is that people are being pulled into?
So there's kind of like a 3-part series to this almost. And it does start with Pluto and Aquarius. And I feel like, I kind of feel like beating a dead horse talking about this because the last 2 years, this is nonstop what the discourse is online, but it truly is the main disruptor, if you will, of our space as we know it. So really these planets affect us on a worldview, which we can quite very much so see what's happening right now, but also it does affect our little bubble that we have in the online space. And so Pluto is the longest and the deepest transit, and it does not mess around because Pluto is all about power. And so I think the number one thing that we're seeing with this already is the expert or the guru that's kind of at the top of the pyramid where it's you pay to access my knowledge, that thing that is very done. And there's a huge fundamental question that shifts from how do I get to the top to how do we create something where nobody's at the bottom? And that is what we are going to see a big shift, especially in terms of like business models. And I think that my number one prediction is we're going to see horizontal networks where like everyone can contribute, and there's this kind of like collective wisdom that is more valuable than just like putting somebody on a pedestal, one person expertise sort of thing. And more community owned platforms is going to be huge instead of like building on these like rented platforms that we have been for a long time. And I also think another one, I think we're already seeing this, but like verifiable proof of actual results that will matter so much more than like how good you say something in your messaging per se. And like, you know, there's going to be a huge step up in integrity in those sorts of ways. And I don't even think this is about like, you know, being like, oh, like kumbaya and everyone wins. And it's not even that energy, but it's more of this like collaborative and integrity and like really wanting to pull people up who do amazing work, and like more collaborations across the board where it's like we can combine different skill sets and perspectives. And yeah, I think it's more about like who is really holding the like power or like the direction and like how value is flowing through all of this. And so then like the second part of this is Uranus and Gemini. This just moved here in June. So this is like a very new energy for all of us, or July, I guess. So super, super new energy. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be insane in terms of like AI and information and like, you know, content and overconsumption and all of this stuff. But actually something else is happening. It was a whole different, what I'm seeing at least, than what I like originally assumed this would be like. And what this is like the way that we consume information and connect with people is being completely rewired right now. We are seeing more people leave like, you know, like short term or what am I trying to say? Like places like maybe like Instagram or TikTok or like short form content places, and move into things like email marketing and Substack and long form podcasting. And there's such a need for in-person connection right now more than there's ever been. And I think that because the AI side is going to continue to amp up more and more and more, that the human soft skills, if you will, are more desired and wanted than they've ever been. So like people's like true brands and true personalities are like one of their biggest assets right now for this reason of like people genuinely wanting to connect with the founder, because there's just like anybody can kind of make some great piece of content now, or like great whatever now, or programs. And I think we're already getting there's like a weird like dystopian feel going on with like how much is AI and how much is real. And so I think that that's another massive one where like it's kind of fracturing into like thousands of these like micro communities, like Substack communities or like circle groups or local meetups or whatever it may be. And again, like long form content really becoming bigger again and people wanting that more. Have you noticed that?
I feel like what I've noticed is I've definitely noticed the uptick in Substack like communities and things like that. I've also noticed an uptick in like low ticket paywalls to get people's information, like not $100 a month communities, not even like $50 a month communities, but like $10 communities, $5 communities, or Substacks where it's like there's a really small paywall to get the deeper information, which I kind of like, because I do feel like even if it's a small amount of money, I do feel like it can create better content because the person creating it feels like a better energetic exchange between the two. So I feel like I've noticed that. And I've also noticed like especially for my clients, I've been really prompting my clients to go deeper with their content, because up until I would say like this past spring, you really could get away with just like posting a hook on like a pretty good hook on like a B-roll reel and like not really going that deep, but maybe like perspective shifting a little bit. And that like really worked. People were like really eager to bite on information. But now it feels like people really need a lot more time to nurture before they invest. Mm-hmm. And their communities are willing to go deeper on content. So like for my clients, we've been doing more carousels than reels lately. And they've been deeper. So they've been like more, you could say they're more difficult pieces of content to create, mm-hmm. but they have like screenshots, they have showing, they have telling, they have more of that scrapbooking element of like bringing their life into it. And it's also helped, like my clients have really had to refine their point of view to be like, what are you doing beyond what everyone else is doing? Like, what is your thing? Not just being a photographer coach, but like a photographer coach for what, for why, for who, on a more like, on just like a deeper level. I just feel like things are deeper now.
They are. Like, we are craving so much more nuance, and we're craving, because like there's, for so long it was like this kind of black and white polarity became like the big thing. Like, be as like starking as you can be in your content, like gain that attraction. And that has really died down because we're like, wait, that's not necessarily true. There's many angles. There's like many different conversations. Like, people want to know why you got to that point, not just because you have a strong opinion. They want to know the whole backstory. And that's exactly it. Is like, my carousels are quite literally entire dissertations. Like, they're so freaking long, and it's so true. Like, it's not even necessarily like our buyer behavior has changed, but the timeline to warm that up is significantly longer now.
Yeah.
And I think that across the board, like, not only do, sometimes people have negative experiences in the online space, but I think that overall we are just so buyer fatigued because we're sold to at every angle. Everything's an ad.
Always.
Everything.
And I feel like another kind of shift that's in this same like direction is like, it used to be like launching. Like, everyone was constantly launching. Like, it was freebie into an upsell, into your mastermind, into your downsell, like just a constant stream of like selling and a pressure to like constantly have something new for people to buy from. Mm-hmm. And I mean, for me, I have literally not launched anything in a year.
Yep.
Like, I just have my signature programs, and like, they're awesome. Like, I do not feel the need, or like, it would be out of integrity for me to be like, and here's this offer, and here's this offer, because I'm like, but what I'm doing is great and it's working, and you don't need these other like fluffy sorts of things. And I mean, I personally love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like on that note too, like, buyers have gotten so smart. They know they're being put into a funnel. They're like, yep, seen this before 100 times. Not stupid. And like, we also at this point know, actually I think there's like two sides to this. Like, we know what we are kind of looking for and want to invest in. I was just having this conversation on a call right before this, where we are craving more of that like longer connection with somebody in a container, whether it is like a group program, whether it is a, really listening to like this one voice or this like specific community, and allowing yourself to actually be able to go deep with this person and like actually get the full value. Because for so long, so many people just jumped from thing to thing to thing, and it was so surface with what the value they actually got.
Just all of these like mid-level like courses and offers, like people were just like course collecting and like stacking, and like exactly with what you're saying, like the real value comes from like creating a connection. Like, our clients start with us in 3-month contracts, but like rarely do they leave after 3 months. Like, our clients stick with us because they start to see like we really get them after like the first 2 months. We start to like really get them. And that
Yeah.
process is worth so much. Like it's so valuable to have someone who really gets in the weeds with you and understands your business instead of just like trying to get a cheap win from a low ticket course.
Yeah. Yeah. Partnerships are absolutely invaluable. Like seeing investments as partnerships, like somebody like you coming into their business is like, no, this isn't a please come save me. Please, let's hope that this works. It's like the mindset needs to be, this is a long-term partnership. This is something that is going to make me grow and scale over time, and not just like, yep, let's like raise, let's get a bunch of sales in just 1 month of this person being in here. It's this process. And I think too, there was something that you said that reminded me of this, but we are no longer in an era of selling information. It is now an era of maybe selling more like perspective and community and having support rather than information, because like you said, we literally got so coursed out essentially, where we're like, oh my God, everything is a course. And now having AI, we have access to information within seconds. And a lot of us are smart enough to figure out too how to get good information from AI and know whether it's, spitting something not real out versus if it is. But I think that, the information and just seeking that out is also another thing that is really falling off or has already fell off majorly. And also, like, on this note, like this third kind of component, so like we talked about like Pluto, then Uranus, and now Neptune has shifted into Aries. And like the last 14, 12-ish, I can't remember exactly, years, it's been in Pisces. And this is when we really saw the like flow and surrender and receive and trust the universe and like manifest and alignment and like feminine energy and like all those things, which great, love. Okay. But now Neptune in Aries is like really, really flipping this to more of this like pioneering, like fight for your mission, claim your space, leadership, like action type of energy. And I already have been noticing this shift in people where it's like, it's not like how do I want to say it? It's not that we're like abandoning like these like feminine and flow sides and whatnot that we have, but I do think that a lot of people lost kind of like the plot and like lost touch for a little bit on like, wait, no, you actually have to show up and take action. Like you can't just sit there and be like, universe, bring me clients. Like there has to be like, some of your involvement here. And so I think that we're kind of seeing more of this trailblazer, like pioneer archetype. Again, like really claiming very bold missions and movements. And I'm very curious to know how this one's going to play out, because Neptune is such a strange planet to grasp, because it's so it's all about like dissolution and like fantasy, and it's also like dreams and things like that, but it can be kind of hard to know how it's going to play out because there's different archetypes. But I do think maybe the shadow side could be like almost this like aggressive mentality that comes in, or like cult leaders that come in per se that we might see. So just be aware of that if you start to notice it.
Yeah, I love that thought. And I feel like, the pendulum always swings, and like it's probably the planets. I obviously don't know everything about astrology, but like the pendulum swings. Like we went from like girl boss hustle era, and then people were really like passive income. Everything should be passive. Like you should basically not have to work, which is awesome. And there are elements of that I agree with and believe in. Like not all of your income should be trading time for money. Like passive income should absolutely be part of your strategy. But I feel like the way I see things shifting. And I've talked to other entrepreneurs, so it's funny to hear you say it when you do know about astrology, but like other entrepreneurs that I'm friends with are talking about like having higher ticket offers that are way more high touch and way more valuable, which is the opposite of passive income.
Yeah.
But then working with fewer people. And I mean, those are just like, those are pretty much opposites. And I feel the same way because I think those passive offers are too, it's surface level. It's stuff you could get from AI. It's
right.
There's just nothing really there for people to, they need the support, like you said, the support, not just the information.
So I think too, like one of the things that I saw with Neptune being in Pisces, because again, it's been there for a long time, since maybe 2010 or 12ish. And one of the big things that we saw across the board was like everything became content, like no matter what it was. And like we've really seen a boom of like, there'd been no boundaries of letting people completely into their personal lives, and like personal and business was completely like meshed together. And there was a lot of that too. But the other layer of this, and what you are referring to as like these trends, is Saturn. And so Saturn just also moved into Aries, but Saturn's a shorter moving planet, so it moves every like 2 to 3-ish years, and it does majorly rule like what kind of structures are we operating in. So when it was like in Capricorn and like I want to say like 2020-ish, that's when we saw like the major like girl boss like energy. Like if you are not working 7 days a week, you are behind. It was like that that kind of energy. And then moving into like when it was in Pisces, it really brought in that flow and that let's be passive, let's have this really feminine type of business. And then now being in Aries is we're going to see kind of another almost like trend in terms of our structures. And so yes, Neptune is in Aries and so is this one, so it's kind of a weird combination. But I feel like Saturn is basically asking right now, like, okay, who is building something that works versus like who's just talking a good game? And I think it's really, really going to reward those who are like disciplined pioneers in their work and who are taking leadership. They are taking bold action, but they're backing it up with real infrastructure. They're not just like talking, out of their ass and being like, oh, I'm going to do this thing, or I'm the loudest in the room. But it is more so like moving kind of quickly on these things, but really having like the proper systems to back it up per se. And this is where I think leadership is going to be tested, and where I do think a lot of people are going to be, I hate to say it, but like weeded out in the next 3 years of like who is actually building something of value, of something that lasts, of something that people really want to be a part of, a community that people want to be a part of, a mission that people want to be a part of, like who is really stepping up in their leadership. And so, yeah, it is certainly a strange combination with all of these, because it's not like 4 or 3 separate trends that we're choosing from, like it's all happening at once. And they are like creating these fundamental shifts where we have to adapt to these essentially. And I think that Saturn is this kind of more narrow window though, where it's like we can really capitalize on that shift and work with that energy. And again, that energy is very much so stepping up in your leadership, stepping up in what you really want to claim, and whether that's like a mission or a movement or something you're building, and doing the work. And I think one more huge lesson of this is people are going to have to get very used to delayed gratification, because we are not used to that right now.
No.
We're not going to see the quick, super fast wins that we used to see anymore, where it's like, oh, you can have a 100K business in 3 months. It's like, that timeline is
no, because
different.
like people need more time to build trust now. Like, it's just
Mm-hmm.
it's true. And like, I think all these pieces that we've been talking about go together. Like, it's people need more nurturing for a higher ticket, higher touch offer. People are not as interested in like your low ticket, like quick win stuff, because it doesn't work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So like all those pieces go together where like you're not really gonna, maybe, I mean, I don't want to say you're not, like it's totally possible, anything's possible, but like
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be less likely to build a 100K business in 3 months, because you're gonna need those 3 months to build trust before you get to the point where people are like ready to invest with you.
Yeah. The timelines are
So, like,
certainly like extended, but I do really, really see, though, especially in the next like 2.5 years, like those who are really, really backing. Because here's the thing too, is I think that sometimes people take like their mission or their purpose and they take it at really face value, and they get frustrated when they're not seeing like these quick wins, or like a offer they didn't put out is doing that well. And it's like, well, right now you're really being asked to like fully embody that mission, embody that purpose, and like be a true leader of that. And in a couple of years, you will be so greatly rewarded for that effort of like, I'm sticking this out because I'm building something that is lasting. I'm truly passionate about this thing. I'm honest about this thing. And I think that's going to be so telling about who we really like look up to and like follow and want to invest in, as well as people even in the online space. And it's certainly going to be a huge weeding out of others, though, who just can't get behind that long term. Let me put in the more disciplined work. Let me be patient for these types of results, because I'm sure like you know this and teach this too, where I tell people, the marketing that you did 2 months ago is what is now converting, not what you posted this week. Like, there's been this longer kind of process. Like, I've even had people who have been around for years, like finally just now invest in me, of like, okay, you know what? I want to do like the long form thing. I want to do the high ticket one. And it's been, 2.5 years since they followed me, but like, I'm really dedicated to this mission that I'm dedicated to like the work that I do. And I'm okay if it takes that long, because like often people stay in my world for a very long time once they do invest. And I think we're going to see so much more of that type of archetype. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The first question is, what do people's sun signs have? Because most people, like, that's what they know.
Mm-hmm.
What impact do they have on their business? Like, what should they look for in their sun sign to like guide them into the next year?
Mm-hmm. So I would say with the sun sign, even though it does play like a small role in like the overall big picture of your chart, the main thing is when it comes to creating something, whether it's an offer, whether it is your content, whatever it may be, is keeping very, very closely the archetype of your sun sign in all of that. Because when you abandon your sun sign is when things stop feeling fulfilling, is when things stop feeling like, wait, this doesn't really feel like mine, or this isn't what I thought it would be. And just ensuring that you are keeping that archetype at, again, like the center of what you create, the center of what you do, and really honoring that it wants to be embedded in that. And that is how like your best and most authentic expression comes through, is when you have created containers or creations or whatever where that can actually be expressed in. And like, I'll like give an example. Like, I am a Leo sun. And so for me, it's so important to be able to very much so be like bold. And it's important for me to be able to like show my confidence. It's important for me to like actually wear my heart on my sleeve and like pour into people and to light up their confidence. And I like to create containers where I can do so. And that makes things so much more fulfilling to me when I'm able to pull that into all that I do. Same thing too with my content, is like, there's always, even if I'm creating like problem aware content, I'm always subtly reminding my audience about like how incredible they are and how much power they have and how, they really have everything that they need to create whatever it is that they want for themselves. Because like, that's just like a huge part of Leo archetype, is really, really wanting people to understand their own unique power and essence, and how that is enough for anything that they want to do or they desire to have. And so, yeah, I would really look at like, what is your sun sign's archetype and what wants to be expressed through that? Like, how does it want to come through?
I love that. To like piggyback on that one. So I just got out of like the little blip of my Saturn return, but then I'm in January, I go into Saturn return for like 2 years or whatever, 3 years. And there's a lot of people in my network that we're around the same age, which is funny. Even like, it's so weird, but I have so many Capricorn entrepreneur friends. But like, what would you say about that and business, like going into Saturn return and business with everything else you know about astrology?
Are you a Capricorn sun as well? You are? Okay. So what's nice for you guys is Capricorns and Aquarius is you guys are already ruled by Saturn. So typically for you, your Saturn return is a lot kinder on you guys because you've already had a lot of very hard lessons throughout your entire life. And Saturn's not here to like punish you this like final return. It's more so it could even be very rewarding. And so with Saturn returns, I think that they have developed such a negative connotation. Like they seem like so scary.
100%.
Like you're going to get your ass kicked at like any time, or like something is going to happen to you. And I think that it's important to like reframe like, what is Saturn and like, why is it doing this to begin with? But Saturn in our charts is, yes, typically where we often struggle and where we have had lessons. But I like to think of Saturn similar to the gym, or similar to like a goal that you are achieving, where it's like you can say that you want one thing, but your actions need to prove it. And so like with the gym, if you go one day and you do like 50 sit-ups and you're like in the mirror and you're pissed that you don't have abs yet, like Saturn's gonna be like, yeah, well, it's not going to happen. Like Saturn is like time under tension sort of thing. And so if you then go to the gym every day for 3 years and you're disciplined, you're finally going to get what you desire. But there's so many additional rewards that come with that, of like, your confidence is better. I don't know, maybe you sleep better. You feel better overall, etc. Saturn's very similar in nature, where when you are disciplined with what it's teaching you, it wants to reward you in a big way. And so for the Aries return that is happening, I feel like for you guys, one of the biggest things is, I noticed that a lot of Aries Saturn kind of have almost like an impulsiveness to them, of like maybe like starting something or not finishing, or like another archetype it could show up as is like, what was that? I was just reading something about this recently. But one of the big lessons I think for you guys is going to be a huge step up in your leadership, and how like you are taking control over pioneering something. Like I said too, is like if you are a Capricorn sun and Aquarius sun, oftentimes you have already gone through some sort of transformation or experience or discipline. And so if you guys have been very disciplined in that kind of Aries archetype of like being pioneering and being bold and taking leadership, then you are going to be greatly rewarded in that. If you have been maybe shying away from those things, then you're going to get some lessons that will ask you to step up in that way. And sometimes they come in not the kindest ways of how those lessons show up, but it's like a testing period of, are you really going to do this thing, or are you not going to do it? So I feel it's, again, like, yes, it can kind of seem like scary, and yes, people definitely go through very like life-altering events. But if you really talk to anybody who's very in tune with their Saturn return, oftentimes they will say, yeah, I went through all of this stuff, but I see exactly why it had to happen in order for me to be where I'm at now. It's like, in hindsight, they're like, oh, I see why X, Y, and Z fell away or went through this lesson. So it's kind of like that.
For your clients that you work with, I'm sure you've worked with clients who are like in Saturn return or getting out of it. I'm sure you've worked with all sorts. Do you usually see kind of like two sides to the coin where either they like step up into something with their business and it like pops off, or they decide that's not for them and they kind of go down a different path? Do you feel like it's like that, or do you feel like it's more just refinement? Like, what do you usually see when people are in that phase?
Yeah. So actually, I just offered like eclipse readings very recently, and a lot of these people they have an Aries Saturn, so they're going through it. And something that was very obvious and pattern wise was they all had this desire to like shift something, but they didn't know exactly what that was going to look like or how to go about it there. But they were really feeling called to like leave something behind and to step in something new in like a whole nother level of leadership and authority in like a different kind of way though. And that alone can feel very scary to like one, even leave everything that you've always known and how it works and what's predictable. But that is one big one that I'm currently seeing right now, is where they're stepping into something new, almost something higher, something different. And another one is like, so much of Aries kind of rules like identity and like autonomy as well, and like taking radical responsibility for who you are and how you lead your life in general. And just to also with like people I've worked with in their Saturn return, like in their Pisces return, which we had a lot of in recent years, a lot of those people, so like my boyfriend is an Aquarius sun and he had his Pisces Saturn return. And because he's an Aquarius sun, I felt like his was extremely positive. But with some of the people I worked with, I saw how for them it was like they had like created like these illusions of things, of like whether it was like their business or a mentor or like their identity, where they weren't seeing it with like real eyes. They had like the rose colored glasses off and they came off and they were like, oh my God, how have I not seen this before? So like, of course, like Saturn return will, depending on what sign you have it, what it's aspecting, it will show up differently. But yeah, I also think like a couple other things coming up for Saturn and Aries is like these like courage and like boundaries too, where you guys may be really tested if you can stand up for yourself, or like even just, like boundaries in general around that. Also embodied leadership is a huge one that I keep saying, but it's like so apparent that it's coming out, where it's like leading by example and not just like, like not just like saying you're doing something, but actually doing something.
Yeah.
And I think too, like Saturn is not happy in Aries because Aries is a very fast sign and Saturn's very slow. And so there's this kind of like push and pull of like wanting to act really fast, but then Saturn being like, well, you need the plans in place and you need to do this and X, Y, and Z. And it can kind of feel like this like blocked energy at times, or like frustration or impatience. But I think that you guys are really learning to like mastery does take time as well. So those are just some things coming up for that.
No, I love that so much. So I feel like what I'm hearing for like 2026 for everyone, not just those of us that are about to go through Saturn return, is just like some big themes you've said are like community, embodied leadership, integrity, and maybe the ways those show up in people's businesses could be like a refinement of what offers they have coming out, how involved and how supportive they are with their clients or whatever you're doing. Does that kind of sound like what the vibes are?
Yep. I just feel like the overall, like the biggest recap is really being really embodied in your work and in your leadership, getting really behind a mission or a movement, being dedicated to what you are building, accepting like the quick wins are not going to be as frequent as they once were. And if you can stick out, especially in the next couple of years of like building something that's innovative, building something you deeply care about, being more community centered, being more like, how can I really help more people like rise up in general? How can I go deeper into my service and like what is my role? I think those people are really going to come out on top in a lot of ways, and they're really going to be seen as like, wow, they are really the people that I want, that others want them to guide them through things and through these shifts, and being well known to in the industry. That's like the biggest message, I would say. Yeah.
I love it. I mean, that all sounds like exciting to me, but maybe that's just because of whatever my chart is. But I'm like, I'm ready for it.
Yes,
I think it's going to be awesome.
I do too.
Okay, before I let you go, what is one piece of advice you wish you could give your younger self? This could be with business, this could be with life, could be both.
Yeah. This is so hard. I think that especially like with where I've landed recently, like I feel like I'm the most like content and just very embodied in what I do. And like when I think about how I got here, I would definitely give myself the advice of like, stop trying to rush into the version of you that you think you should be or that you think you have to be. And instead build like that trust with yourself through like small, consistent actions. And like the big leaps come when you've built that foundation to hold them, and when you're really, really secure in yourself and knowing that your gifts and purpose and genius are always enough, and like staying in your lane with that. I think that would be exactly it.
I love that. Like just not rushing. I feel like, yeah, just at the age of the internet and social media, and even just the past like little bit of the online business space, I feel like everything has been so rushed, or like there's been this pressure to rush, like launch fast, like take action quick, which like is respectable a little bit, but it's also like, what's the rush for? Like you're becoming that person.
Yeah.
And honestly, like you can't even rush really becoming that person. Like it's not always in your direct control how fast things can go. So I love that so much.
Yes.
Where can people find you? What do you have coming up? Like, yeah.
You guys can find me on Instagram at Kessli Hall, and I'm actually getting rid of all one-on-one in 2026, which is crazy. But I have 3 core offers. So the first one is the Mirror. This is an AI tool that I built that has all of my astrology and human design knowledge through the lens of business embedded into it. So you can consult with it as if it's like me, get really, really deep insight on your charts, how it applies to your business, whether it's like an offer you're building out, whether it's how you market, or how you are operating inside of a container and you want like your energy to be better, whatever it may be. And it does come with a membership too, where I'm constantly dropping in like really specific prompts for like transits that we're experiencing in real time. So there's that. And then I have Architected. This will be coming out at the end of the year, but this is a self-led program, and it also has support in it where you essentially are architecting a business based off of your cosmic blueprint. And we have really, really in-depth 8 programs that are all like the main pillars of your business and building within those. And then the very last one is Equinox, which is my mastermind. This is a capped program. It's extremely intimate, and it's very similar to working one-on-one with me, except for you get to learn and evolve with and from the group. And those are, my 3 offers. Very, very simple. And just, that's my main focus for next year too. So I'm excited. I
love the simplicity of your offers. I feel like Yeah. Like, just like we talked about, like, people are just craving that. So that's awesome. I'm really excited for you. And everyone, make sure you go follow Kessli. And we're so glad to have you on. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. Talk soon.